this was a week where moderate anti-Trump Republicans showed that they might be making a comeback that no one's that excited about, kind of like the comeback of low-rise jeans, both are from the 90s, both had their time. And like, sure, yeah, high-rise or like is cutting off our circulation, but do we really want to go back that far? Anyway, this week, Republican Liz Cheney, who voted to impeach Trump recently said he has no future in the Republican Party, reportedly raised $1.6 million for her reelection campaign from all kinds of moderate Republicans, including a PAC associated with Lindsey Graham, Senator Mitt Romney, former House Speaker Paul Ryan, remember that turd licker, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, that's right, Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, and then, of course, former Bush officials, including her mother, Lynne Cheney, and father, Satan. Basically, many Republicans in leadership are standing behind Cheney as opposed to the arguably more Trumpy Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader. And even before Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley or Meeting and Josh Hawley have also raised millions of dollars in 2021, but not necessarily out of like a massive outpouring of small dollar donations, but they like purchased giant lists and so like spent tons of money buying these giant lists of Republican donors and like squeeze more money out of those. But the Republican base is dying, right? Like literally, figuratively, after January 6th, a lot of folks jumped ship. They're dying out. But those who are still there, that little backwash that's there is very loyal to Trump, not loyal to Liz Cheney. So this is a big question, right? Like, where is the Republican Party going? Is the future, what will the future of the Republican Party be? And more importantly, does the future have to include the Republican Party? Just broadly, Like, why don't we just do it without them? Why don't they just stop altogether? Nate, what do you think? Where do you think we're going? You think we're going closer to the Marjories, or do you think we're going closer to the Liz Cheneys?
I think people are going to get more extreme. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I think there's going to be just a more and more extreme, racist and violent minority of angry, white victims. And that's going to kind of fester, but I think we'll still function as long as the economy is upright. And so, it just depends on, can they agree on a candidate with old school Republicans? And by old school Republicans, I guess I'm talking about George W. Bush Republicans, because Reagan Republicans Reagan Republicans were bad enough for me, but they got worse when they were ready to, invade Iraq because Saddam Hussein had Santa Claus, and then that got even worse. So I don't know. I mean,
it's hard to imagine they get more radicalized, but like I felt very torn, and obviously like victim in quotations when you said they're the victim. It's true. Like, from a lot of things I've read, people are like, dude, sorry. No. I think, we all know that that's what you mean. Like, but the capital involved in the fake victimhood complex is like, it goes on and on. Like, you can keep milking that for a long time. And I wonder, but it's hard for me to imagine folks get more radicalized, because it all ends. You talked about the Q documentary. It all ends there. So it's like, okay, there's that and the Capitol riots, or fucking Liz Cheney and Paul Ryan. It's like people who want to see poor people die, but way slower. Like, the timeline is slower. They want to make money off them first.
At this point, I'll take a slower timeline.
Right.
And I think maybe that's why they're clinging to the current power structure within the power structure. I mean, I think that they know that all their bills are paid for by the petroleum industry, and the second that business shifts away from that a little bit, maybe they don't have as much weight, and maybe they're, kind of big tent is fractured and fragmented a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. And also, like, what's interesting is Hawley and Ted Cruz and other, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, they're not actually getting a lot of money from corporations anymore because they've been deemed too toxic for them. And that's the hell world we're in. Like, even ExxonMobil or, like, terrible corporations are like, nah. See, we believe in oil spills, but, and like low key white nationalism, but not America first necessarily.
Yeah. I don't know. I hope you're right. I mean, I hope storming the Capitol made a difference, because that's worth infinity flag burnings. I just, I don't know. I think it's really interesting because, I mean, not everybody's going to pick up a gun and go shoot up a mall, but the victimhood, bombardment of the victimhood narrative that pushes somebody to that is intoxicating to a lot of people. Also, just across every part of the political spectrum. I mean, I don't think liberals are any short on indulging in victimhood from time to time. Everybody's guilty.
Sure. Especially if it's beneficial to their platform and they can, like, utilize what I would call bad faith identity politics, as opposed to real and good faith, anti-racist identity politics.
The definition of tyranny is real loose. It's just it's now turned into the most obvious red flag. Anybody using tyranny right now is.
If you say tyranny,
you're just, I mean,
you've never, like, had to look more than 5 minutes for a parking spot. Otherwise, you're like, tyranny. You've never been turned down for a job.
I mean, I understand why you deny that the Holocaust exists, because you wouldn't be able to talk like you do if you actually had to use some sort of perspective or context. I mean, Jesus Christ! I just watched the documentary on Darfur. It's like, what I'm sorry, what are we talking about? Because you can't smell your food court like you want to, because you have to wear a mask at the cookie stand. Like, that's tyranny. Like, are you out of your fucking mind? I don't know.
Anna, you just sort of overheard our discussion about the moderate, like fine, upstanding conservative Republicans and the crazy off the wagon Josh Hawley insurrectionist Republicans. What are your thoughts on this identity crisis within the Republican Party, within your opponents?
I mean, the reality is that these more, quote, moderate Republicans consented to this. They subscribed to it because they thought it would benefit them. And I mean, you cannot find a legitimate moderate Republican in Florida, because at the end of the day, they each wore MAGA hats. They had MAGA bumper stickers. Like, they ran towards Trump. They stood next to him at rallies. They saw him as their ticket to success. And then before they know it, it's like, oh, I'm with the white supremacists. Like, maybe I am a white supremacist, So yeah, like, it doesn't exist anymore, because y'all didn't say anything when we were all making the point. And so here we are, facing some really, really challenging circumstances where people in places of power are trying to become that Trump 2.0. And, Florida is a perfect example of that.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, do you feel like, from your vantage point, that folks in Florida, Republicans in Florida, will, like, see the likes of Romney and Cheney and, whoever else, like even Kevin McCarthy, and be like, yeah, we need to move in that direction? Or do they feel all in on Trumpism still?
I mean, I am super blessed to have a lot of friends who were Republicans or still are Republicans, but they don't vote for the candidates anymore. Some call themselves the never Trumpers and whatnot. But those are becoming rare and rare. I do think that when you go, especially in parts of Florida that were already really red, their commitment to Trump's values and Trump's approach is still strong. And remember, folks, Trump has now moved to Florida. And so he's also instigating himself, right, as this political figure, to a point where there have been at least 2 events recently that I can recollect where Trump was a keynote speaker and everyone's like freaking out about it, right? So he still is embedding himself into the Republican Party, especially within Florida.
Yeah, including someone's wedding that he spoke at randomly. And he's like, I won. I don't even know the bride or groom. Anna,
my wedding would be canceled if that happened, by the by. I'd be like,
oh, yeah.
Okay, it's over.
I would like, yes, slit my own wrists live right there. And
you know, there was one liberal at that wedding. And they were like, oh my God, kill me now.
Have you become a patron yet? Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room is where you can directly support this show and help me make it sustainable so that I can do more of what I do best. Doing this.